Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. This is Apostle Crystal Lee. I'm excited once again to be here with you. I've got my brother with me, Apostle Ace. We are in the room. Come on in the room, y'all. Y'all come on in here this morning and let's have this conversation. Galactic Prayer Week 1. This is the second day or the second installation of Galactic Prayer. And we had an amazing time on the first day, an absolutely amazing time of revelation on the first day. And I'm excited about what the Father desires to say to us today. I want to dispel a myth this morning. Can I dispel a myth this morning really early before I have my brother come on and greet you? I want to dispel the myth that when the Father calls us to do something, we know everything about what He's calling us to do. Therefore, we are doing it from a place of already having done it. I, you know, I think that myth needs to be dispelled because there are times when we are called to do something because we've already been called out of a place and we've already had. Wait, let me see how I want to say this. There's something I'm trying to express to you this morning in the fact that where we are on heaven's timeline is dealing with things that we've never dealt with before. And so it is a myth if you're waiting to have all of the experiences before you have the conversation as heaven is describing it to you, then you are missing something. Because when Abraham was called out of his nativity, when he was called out of Ur of the Chaldees, we're going to talk about that a little bit today. He had no clue where he was going. But what he did have confidence in was his God and the directions that Yah would give him to get to the divine destination. And so it's something in the fact that as it pertains to leadership, there is a obedience factor that proves leadership, because without that obedience factor, there is no leadership. Am I making this clear? I'm trying to express it as simple as I can this morning. It's very critical in this hour that as a leader, you understand that when Yah's telling you to do something, there are time constraints connected to it. I'm going to give you some examples. I've heard some things here lately, and it's been impressed upon me because I went through a season where I wasn't sure. In my infancy in the things of Yah, I wasn't sure how to go about getting the things done or what the timeline of getting things done was. So I would hear things, and at first I would just jump out there and do it. And then I realized I needed to have some time in the presence of Yah to identify what the direction of the doing was. And then I kind of got complacent because I was like, well, I can't just jump out there and do it because the last time I jumped out there and did it, it wasn't timing or whatever. And so now I'm in this other, when it was just simply identifying the directions, the markers, and moving in that vein. There are so many things that are against us as sons of Yah in this season, so many different conversations, so many different teachings and trainings and perspectives, and all of these different doctrines that we have undergone as the children of Yah. We've walked through some things, but I'm here to express to you this morning that just as I started out with Abraham, I believe, I don't know if I said Moshe or Abraham, but I was dealing with Abraham at first, leaving his father's nativity. But I want to go to Moshe for a moment because he was raised in Pharaoh's house. Yah allowed Egyptian culture to become his culture in order to pull him back out of that and to show him another way. So when he left there kind of under duress. He left there, in a panic because he didn't want to lose his life. But when he got where he was going, it took him 40 years to come back to the place that he left. But he came back. He knew the way back to Egypt. Don't get it twisted. He understood how to get to Egypt, but he had never been to Egypt under these conditions. Am I making myself clear? So the route that he took to get back to to get back to Mount Sinai, he knew that way, and so it was a way that had already been traveled, right? There are some things that we've already traveled, but there are instances where we haven't been um, in a place in that specific, from that specific, what's the word I want to use here? Man, this is challenging, but it's good because I've not been this way before. I've never had to explain this in this way. So I'm doing the best I can with the language that I'm hearing to make it as simple as I can. That as a leader, it's your obedience. Let's just say that it's your obedience that makes you the leader. It's not all of the knowing of all of the directions. Like if you put a map in front of me and said, okay, now where are we going? I could give you some basic trajectory or some basic coordinates of some things, but I don't know all of the coordinates. But my willingness to obey Yah is why he uses me to do the things that he uses me to do. You understand what I'm saying? So you're not waiting on, well, I got to know all of the things in order to be a leader. No, he's waiting on your response to the call. I hope that helps. He's waiting on your response to the call. And in your response to the call, you're going to begin to step out into things you've never stepped out into before. And you're going to arrive at the divine destination because of your obedience. I'm going to bring my brother in here. Say good morning to the people, brother, and just kind of weigh in and help me express this in a fashion that is understandable. Help me express what I'm expressing this morning.
Well, shalom and galactic grand rising
Yeah.
to you and to those who are listening. And it is always a plump, pleasing pleasure, as Les Brown said, to be with you on this wonderful rising. And to each and every one of you, I'm excited. And sister, she just started off. What an introduction! You
Listen, I ain't
just,
even done the
just
introduction. I'm just listen. That's it was in my heart. It was in my heart and in my head to share. Go ahead, brother.
it just jumped right on out into the deep. No,
Yeah.
just did it. But it's just interesting because as you started off with Abram, and then it went into Moshe. It is interesting that how Yah would give us something, and as you was explaining the leaving, not knowing, and yet at the same time knowing how to come back because now I have landmarks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he now he's able to go back, but now then he's leading out. But what's so interesting is, that the beginning of a journey,
Mm-hmm.
and we have been talking about that journey
Mm-hmm.
uh, 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 from being a Messiah to Galactic. It is a journey. Taking the stairs, it is a journey.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to, and it is about obedience. It's about obedience, and it's just interesting because when we look at the prophetic world as we see it today, and you might get a prophetic word say, Yah told you to go get a car. Go get a car
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna bless you with a car. So the first thing is, a lot of times we go through these regiments in our mind that
Yes.
says, well, wait a minute, well, go get a car. So I'm looking at my circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have the finances. How am I going to pay the monthly payment for this vehicle? So we go through these things in our minds and to say, well, okay, I got this word. Well, to go get a car, buy a house,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Buy a house. And I'm going through all these things because now that's the beginning of a journey that I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, but I'm looking at circumstances. I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking at circumstances and say, well, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. I'm a try. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. But it's interesting when we begin to go through these things in our mind. Then we say, well, I'm going to do it. Then there's failure because the very beginning of this journey, what took place was not
Mm.
in an act of obedience. I
Come on.
was not willing.
Come on.
I'm gonna do it, but you have to be willing and obedient.
And obedient. Come on.
So here's the thing that so here my willingness. I'm
Mm.
confronting my willingness in terms of my ability to be
Oh,
able to do this, so I can feel comfortable in
oh,
knowing that I can do this before I even do it.
oh
Now
my.
it's interesting,
Mm-hmm.
sis, that the first thing first, he says, go get a car, go buy a home.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing that we, as I said, stated, the first thing we do, we start going through all of this. But the first thing is, where do obedience start? In the
That's it.
mind.
Mm-hmm.
The obedience. Yes, I will. So that
Mm-hmm.
journey begins to say, I
Yes.
will.
Yes.
Without question,
Mm-hmm.
without second thought,
Come on.
even though I don't know exactly where I'm going,
Come on.
how is it going to be done? All he said was, go, go, journey, go, get a car, go. It's time to get a house.
Mm-hmm.
Now, go. Now, the first thing you say, yes, I will.
Yes, I will. Yep.
And that's the beginning. That's the beginning of obedience that says, now, as I go, and as you were saying, talking, it's interesting that uh, thinking about Abram in Genesis chapter 13, it says, then
Yes.
Abram, verse 1, then Abram went up from Egypt, he and his wife, everything he had, and Lot went with him to
Mhm.
Ninja. Abraham had became very wealthy in livestock and silver and gold,
Yeah.
and he went on his journey. On the
Mhm.
way, now he began to be wealthy but how did that begin? How did
Mhm.
it begin? It began when y'all said, get up, go.
Mhm.
He didn't say, well, where I'm going,
Mm-mm.
what you want me to do, how I'm
Mm-mm.
going to do this. You mean to tell me you want me to take up all my stuff and
All my
go?
stuff and get out of here. How I'ma
And
do
I don't
that?
know where I'm going.
Mm-mm.
Matter of fact, I don't think I'm hearing from you because I'm
Get
settled. I've
everything.
got everything going on right here, and you tell me to go.
Come on.
And he went
Mm-hmm.
without question. I don't know the
Mm-hmm.
journey. I don't know where I'm going, but we understand this on the journey. We know that he began to get wealthy,
Wealthy. Yes.
gold and silver,
Yes.
absolutely on
Yeah.
his way.
On his way.
And so, as you were talking about that obedience,
Yeah.
I'm willing and obedient
Mm-hmm.
on the
Mm-hmm.
way. So that journey starts as you know, it starts with obedience.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with obedience.
Ooh,
I'm
that's the
willing,
first word.
because a lot of times we have a pushback. The
Ah,
new phrase, pushback,
come on now.
instead of rebellion,
Come on. It's called pushback, but it's
resistance.
rebellion. It's
It's
rebellion.
it's the same thing. Yeah, that's the
It's
new
the same.
word
It's
today,
same. Yeah, that's
pushback.
the new word. That's the new word. Oh
So
my
there's
God.
some pushback, and we question, and we resist, and we rebelled when he says, "Do." So that
Mm,
means here's my faith. I
mm.
have blind faith. You tell me to jump off the cliff, I'm not going to even second think. Oh, let
I
me go up
got
to
you.
how far down is the cliff?
I,
How deep is the cliff?
I did it. I did it. I did it in the realm of the spirit. I think I've shared that dream several times. I did it. The road was out. There
Mm-hmm,
was no more street. It was nothing there. It was just another
mm-hmm,
dimension. He said jump. And I
mm-hmm,
was on a four-wheel. And I looked at the person
mm-hmm.
next to me and I said, I'm jumping. Are you with me or not? Because I'm going with or without you.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I jumped. I
Mhm.
didn't go give me no leeway, think about it twice. I heard jump and I said, I'm going. Nah, I don't
Mhm.
know what you're gonna do, but I'm telling you, I'm going with the I promise you.
Yes.
I have been there. And you know what is so funny to me, brother?
Mhm.
That we will jump into foolishness before we'll jump into faith.
Ooh.
You hear me?
Boom.
We
Come
will
on
jump
now.
into foolishness. And then when the Father began to talk to us for real, we all
Mhm.
like, oh, well, let me see. I don't know if that's wisdom. I don't know if people have jumped into foolishness,
Mm.
but now
Mm.
it's
Mm.
time to jump into faith and they questioning.
Mhm.
Like you
Mhm.
said, this thing begins in the mind.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
this is why the transformation of the mind has to take place. Because as
Mhm.
we've been raised in Egypt, proverbially, right? And
Mhm.
learn all the customs of the Mitzrayim, proverbially, okay?
Mhm. Mhm.
Now we're being taken out of that space to be retrained, to be
Mm. Mhm.
reestablished as a son that understands authentic dominion, authentic authority, and all of that.
Mhm.
So we're no
Mhm.
longer able to operate from the perspective of Egypt anymore and it be successful. So we got a lot of people who are frustrated about former successes.
Mhm. Mhm.
You were
Mhm.
formerly successful in Egypt,
Mm. Mhm. Mhm.
and you're trying to equate your success in Babylon or
Mm.
Egypt
Mhm.
to your success that the Father is calling you to in His kingdom.
Ooh. My goodness. My goodness.
And you can't equate the two because you became something to become successful in Egypt. You went through
Mm.
all of the processes to become what you needed to become in Egypt, to become a candidate for that kind of inheritance. And now
Mhm.
you've been moved out of that space. You're saying, I want to be a son. I am a son. And not understanding, and we talked about this a little bit on the first day, what it means to be launched, what it means to be
Mhm. Mhm.
propelled to this new, what does it mean to be grafted in? Do you know when you graft a tree, you got to cut a limb off of the other tree and you got to cut a space on the new tree? That means you got to wound some things, you got to cut some things in order to merge some
Mhm.
things together
Mhm.
and to wait for the process of healing to take place for it to begin to fruit or to become this grafted species.
Right. Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So it's just
Mhm.
so amazing that we will jump into foolishness before we'll jump into faith. And we'll call the foolishness our faith because we were
Mhm.
successful in doing it, not understanding we're operating from a foolish place. But just like we operate from foolishness and run to the foolishness because that's a setting, it's just as simple to step into that faith. It's really just a decision. It's
Mhm.
really just a decision to step into faith. What were some of your takeaways from the first day, brother? There were some things on my mind this morning um,
Mhm.
from the first day, and let's just kind of go over that a little bit because there's still some things kind of uh, needing to probably be stated from the first day. Anything particular that stood out to you from the first day?
Oh my goodness.
It was a lot. It was a
Everything.
lot.
Wait, everything.
Everything.
It's about pick and choose where you want to start with, everything. And I think that the beginning, the first day we talked about the stairs. The journey is that stood out. The
Mhm,
process, the journey, and as you said, the transformation that
mhm.
takes place from point A to point B or from point A to point Z. This is this is how I am now. I am a Messiah seed. But by the time I get to this other point, I'm a galactic seed. I'm
Yeah.
moving from mortality to immortality. And so that journey prepares us. it prepares us, it transitions us out of mortality
Mhm.
into immortality.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that we haven't really we haven't tapped into, because we're saying things now as we're having this discussion, messiahcy, galactic, and to the galactic, that rising, rising up to the crown of glory,
Yeah.
that we're moving in such a way now that we transfer from the caterpillar to the butterfly. The
Yeah.
butterfly now, see, the caterpillar is earthbound. They're
Yeah.
earthbound.
There you go.
But
There you
then it has to be a wilderness, a transformation, going through to something to get to immortality. And so
go.
when
Yes.
it comes out of that cocoon, it's nothing. It don't look like where it started from.
That's right.
It's a total. It has beauty to it.
Yeah.
You look at a caterpillar, a
Oh
wormy,
my
a furry.
God.
Look at just
That
oh,
thing looks
it is
crazy. It
move.
look crazy.
It's it look creepy. It is moving.
Right.
It's
It
moving.
looks slimy.
Yeah,
Got
and,
hair
and
on
then
it and everything. Ew.
absolutely. But the journey. See the caterpillar. That journey. The
Mhm.
caterpillar is trying to find a place to be
Yeah. Yeah.
cocooned.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it has many things. It has many things to obstacles to push back to even get there. The elements,
Yeah.
prey, all these things, animals, human
Yes.
beings, people,
Come on.
dogs, birds, all those things to get to a place to become transformed
Yes.
by the mind. And it's something that's pushing that caterpillar by
Mhm.
by nature. By nature, so it's born into iniquity, born into sin, shaped in iniquity. But yet, my end of me is
Mhm.
different than the beginning of me.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so all this pushback, all this stuff that's coming against me, I have to fight and maneuver. It is interesting, because we was in science, we collect a butterfly, I mean a caterpillar, put it in a jar, and do all these things, and put
Mhm.
leaves and branches so it could come to a place, and it cocoon itself
Mhm.
in it, to see that transformation, because now we dealing with on the journey. Will there be opposition? Yes, there will.
Absolutely.
To
Absolutely.
try to kill you, destroy you,
Absolutely.
take everything away. But
Yeah.
in the obedient, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm obedient.
Yeah.
Wherever that place is to be, I'm going to be there. So that journey, and as you stated in the first discussion, that
Mhm.
that 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 journey, that process, is a difficult process.
Mhm.
But if you're not willing and obedient, you're going to suffer direly.
Oh my God. So true.
I don't want to do this. When you begin to kick back, when you begin to push back, I don't know if I'm supposed to do this. This
Mhm.
don't make no sense to me. This ain't see the God I know won't do you like this.
Yeah.
you know, and the whole process is to get you from a fleshly a flesh living
Yes.
to a galactic living.
That's it.
Because we have gotten that process of living so comfortably in the flesh and said this is the way it's supposed to be. That's religion. The
That's
religious
it.
complex, the industrial complexes,
Yes.
get you comfortable and say this is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yet there's something inside of you say keep on tugging you to go here, to go
Yeah.
here, to do this. There is that journey.
Yeah.
And most folks, we're not used to the journey because we're used to the flesh journey and not an
Yeah.
upward journey. We invert instead of out ascend. We
Yes.
begin to descend more
Yes.
into the flesh instead of ascending into the spiritual realm of Yah.
Mm-hmm.
So that journey that stood out, that journey has so many levels of understanding for so many people,
Yes.
individuals, groups. And so Yahweh deal with the group. Now Yah is dealing with individuals under the royal priesthood.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a group anymore, but it is individual. So it's neither male or female. It includes all of us.
Yeah.
It's neither
Yes.
Greek or Jew. It's all of us.
Mm-hmm.
As
All
an
that would believe.
individual,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. So that the journey stood out, and as it was described, the journey as this steps. Don't take the elevator.
Yes.
So there's so many things that came out of that. That okay, where are you situated? Where are you situated? And so it is really interesting, that journey. And so we had a brief conversation. She says, "Where you at, brother? What's on?" I'm like, listen, I don't know. But when we get there, we're going to find out.
You're gonna find the
you know, when,
Holy
when,
Spirit.
when you get started, we gonna know
Find
something.
out where we
And
at.
it's
Yeah.
interesting. And it's interesting, sis, that when you said that with the thought, and it's interesting because the journey of Moshe and the children of Israel coming out of Egypt and things like that, into the
Mhm.
Moshe first his journey, then the children of Israel. A good leader has to know. Listen, you may not know where you're going, but I understand that in your obedience, when you see once you get there, then you got to come back and help somebody to get where you've gone.
Period.
Period. There are people who
Period.
get there don't want to forget y'all. I got what I want. You
Mm.
you you do what you got to do. Well, he didn't get you to there to say, I'm going to be this island on my own. He got you there to be the leader, to lead folks from where you came from to
That's
where
right.
they need to be.
That's right.
And so he had to go on that journey. Well, he had to go on that journey because he like you said in the beginning. Listen, there was a price on his head.
Oh, oh yeah.
There was a bounty. Now, y'all allow a bounty to become over his head. You're a wanted man
Yep.
because he came into some knowledge of the truth. Now I got to protect my people, and now you protecting your people, born into sin, Egypt, and shaping in iniquity in the culture of things. But now
Mm-hmm.
I got a plan. I got to bring you out. I got to bring.
Mm.
So I'm gonna cause trouble first in your life. Then when
Come
you
on.
come back after 40 years, you're gonna start trouble in their life the same way the trouble was over your life to get you out. Now
That's
they
it.
have to get them out the same way that you got out. But you ain't gonna know where you're going, but you just
That's it.
moving. Sometimes you don't say, listen, move in haste, go.
That's
Uh,
a fact.
so they left out, come back, and it's interesting that here
Mm-hmm.
is this journey because they ended up at Mount Sinai.
Mm.
That journey, 50
Mm-hmm.
days later, they ended up. He said, "Now I want to move you from. I brought you out so that you won't be in your flesh anymore to a place where you go. I want you to be galactic."
Mm. Yep. Fact.
Oh my goodness!
I'm telling you.
You
Fact.
know,
Listen.
see that journey. He said, "Whoa, sis."
Mm.
And so
Mm.
it's interesting.
Fact.
So Moshe, they had
Facts.
that journey. 40, 40, all that 40. He left at 40, came back at 80, and died at 120. 40, all these 40s, and the children of Israel in their 40 years, well, y'all already see, he let us know
Yep.
ahead by looking
Yep.
in the time in the future that
340s.
y'all gonna be here 40 years. It's 40, come on, 340, and yet that journey. But what's so interesting, sis, is that when we go to the second volume in Luke and look at Yeshua, this journey, 40 days, and it started because
Yeah.
he had to go from the flesh to galactic, being in the flesh. As we have to do this 40, we go through this wilderness, this cocooning, because when we come out from the 40, then we are no longer what we were, but we're something that
Yes.
he intended for us to be. And it's interesting that when we even
Yep.
look at Luke, I mean, it's so fascinating that when you look at the high priest in the temple, they took the scapegoat, took him out in the wilderness, laid hands on him first, and laid all this sin where? On his head. Had to do that.
Yes.
But that lets us know one thing. The journey starts in the mind to
Yes.
overcome. Not of the we didn't talk. So when Yeshua the Messiah, now in Luke, here I could be definitely in the wilderness and around people. That don't mean I'm going to be in my house for 40 days.
Yes.
Because it's a mind thing now, and it's interesting. If you don't, sis, if you don't mind me just going to Luke right quick and just read just a little portion of some things, and it says, the very first, and Yeshua being filled with the Holy Spirit returned to Jordan and was led by the Spirit into the wilderness. The Holy Spirit now led him into the wilderness, led him, and then left him there. So in other words, the Holy Spirit left him.
The rehearsal.
Left him.
It does.
Now he has to deal with the situation. Now there's the Holy Spirit. So because now I got what you did. You got to overcome what you are in this flesh. You got to overcome this flesh through the mind. Your mind has to be changed. You got to have a renewed mind. He didn't resist. He was led by the Holy Spirit.
No.
You see? And so when he was led, and so now he is in his mind, in this will, not a physical, it's a spiritual thing. Now he in his mind. It don't tell us what all the things that he dealt with in his mind. But we know this one thing, that when his mind was changed, then now got to deal with the flesh. You see, and so it all depends on how you respond once you overcome the mind. Because if you can't overcome the mind, you can't never overcome the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eye, and the pride of life. And so now he comes out of the wilderness 40 days of his mind, overcoming. Now here is the enemy. Yahweh allowed the enemy, because the Holy Spirit is not there. It's not there. Now he's working on the fact that I've overcome in this mind. I can do this. I have overcome the spirit of everything that has come in my mind. I've overcome this thing in my mind. And it's interesting, when he came out, now the enemy said, I'm going to tell y'all will allow the enemy to test it. Now the Holy Spirit is still not there. So I'm going to test him. I'm going to test the lust of the flesh. And it's interesting, the response. See, a lot of people, he said, listen, man, you hungry, you ain't had nothing to eat, you need something to eat. His response was not, them 40 days was tough. I'm so hungry. Before I have a discussion, let me go and get me some soup. Before I do anything, I need some strength. His
Yes,
response was galactic.
come on now. Come on.
His response to the flesh was galactic. See,
Yes.
so with the enemy, when we got to overcome the flesh, your response to the flesh, it has to be galactic.
Come
Man,
on now.
oh, listen, oh, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeded out of the mouth of Yah do man live. Leave me alone. Get behind me. Who you
Mm-hmm.
think you are?
Mm-hmm.
You got authority. It was something that you were saying even the first day, and you kind of you brought around here today. Made me think about it
Mm-hmm.
because people are so interested in power instead of authority.
Oh my.
Sis,
Mm-hmm.
people
Mm-mm-mm.
are more interested in power than
Mm-hmm.
authority.
Yes.
And see,
Yes.
people think because you got power, oh, you got might, you got power.
That's strength. Mm-hmm.
And authority makes you look weak. But authority, if I got authority, I got authority over your power.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
You ain't nothing compared to the authority that I have to bring you under subjection. I
There
have
is no people
authority.
greater. That's it. That's it.
Somebody said, well, authority, authority, people look at authority like nothing. People want to operate, see, flesh want to operate in power.
Mm-hmm.
Power. I got power.
Mm-hmm.
See, the world, we see authority in the world, but the premise of authority of the world is power.
That's right. They equate that to power.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But having authority. And so now he come out of the wilderness dealing with his response was a power of authority.
Mm-hmm.
Man shall not his response was galactic. Mm. His power,
Yep.
his response was galactic. But people want to be real.
Yep.
Listen, you need to do this. You need to do that. So you can balance out and get this. You need some water, this and that and the other, and everything. But his response was, man should not live by bread alone. Not saying that
That's it.
don't eat.
Mm-hmm.
Man should not live by bread alone, but by every
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 word.
word. that,
Yes.
and then it is interesting because the next step was the lust of the eye.
Come on.
Sis,
Come on.
here's now this is where I like this part because yet his response was galactic,
It
but
was.
the enemy wanted to take his eye. We
Mhm.
walk by faith and not by sight. He wanted
That's
him to see of the flesh
mhm.
what he could do.
That's it.
And so in the fifth verse, it says, and the devil took him up into a high mountain. What? A
Mhm.
high mountain? To show him all the kingdoms of the world in a
Mhm.
moment of time. My goodness.
Man
He
on man.
saw this. He took him to a dimension of vision. He saw in a moment of time.
Hmm.
And then he said, and the devil said to him, all this authority
Mhm.
I will give to you. And see, first thing he said, I'm gonna give you all this authority. Then he
Mhm.
said, and the glory of them.
Mhm.
What I'm gonna give you authority, but I'm gonna give you the glory so that you will feel invincible, that nothing can't come against you, that you're invincible in the position that I'm gonna give you. I'm gonna give you the glory, my glory.
There you go. Mine.
You're
Mhm.
gonna you're gonna feel like
So
but here's that
powerful.
journey.
So powerful.
Absolutely. Uh-huh. Because it has been given over to me, and to anyone that I please, I can give it in darkness.
Mhm.
Don't see
Mhm.
darkness got glory in it, but
Yes,
it's
it
not
does.
the glory of Yah. The darkness got light, but it's not immortal. It's controlled by try to control your flesh to believe your mortal flesh that you're invincible in your flesh.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is interesting because that's still part of the journey. That's
That's
still
it.
part of the journey. And he said, only if you worship me, all this will be yours. I will give you everything that you need. So with the religious complex industrial system, we got the prophetic. And a
That's it.
lot of prophetic is not given it's not by Yah, it's of the flesh,
It's
of
pathetic.
darkness.
It's pathetic.
It's pathetic. It's pathetic. But yet at the same time, he said, I'm gonna give this to you.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have this authority, power to rule. Because in darkness, I know everything. So in
Mm-hmm.
darkness, I know everything. And so when people operate in their flesh, oh my, did I say that?
Come
When
on, come on,
people are in their flesh, they're operating in an area of darkness.
come on.
When the heart's not right,
Mm.
when you're not willing and obedient, then the heart is not right in position to receive what is pure on your journey.
Yes.
You see, so you got to begin to overcome all this stuff on the journey.
Come on.
Going up the stairs, not
Take
taking
the
the
step.
elevator. You know,
That's
and so
listen. Mm-hmm. It's good.
twin, uh, sis,
Absolutely. Inside jokes.
right? I'm sorry. Oops, oops,
Mhm.
oops.
Yes, sir.
But so here it said, he said, get away from me, Satan. It is written.
Yeah.
Yahweh are your father. You must reverence,
You
and
serve
him
him.
you must serve him.
You know,
You
he don't
you
serve you. You serve him, sucker.
right.
You
So what's
confused.
interesting? But see, here's the interesting thing. We're going through this journey, and
Yeah.
sometimes we feel like, Yah, you ain't even with us.
Yeah.
He ain't. He ain't. He allowed us to develop you.
Come
You
on.
know, you're surviving, you're living, because you're
Yeah.
crying out, oh, I'm out here to die. Ah, okay, you got some. I'm thirsty. I'm thirsty to death. Well, you got some water. I'm starving. Well, you got some food. I provided
Yeah.
that for you. You
Yeah.
know, so but matter of fact, on this, I'm not going to even do no miracles for you.
Come on. Yeah.
And it's interesting, and I'm just gonna go to the last part that says
Come on.
when so the 13th verse, when the devil exhausted everything, all the temptation of the flesh departed from him for a season. For a
Mm-hmm.
season.
For a
That
season.
means that something is getting ready, something's gonna come back
Something
again.
else gonna come up. Something else got to come up. Yeah.
Absolutely. So when it come up the next time, how will you respond? But
What's the
here's
go?
the interesting thing. Absolutely. So here's the thing that gets me. The 14th verse, and Yeshua returned in the power of the
Of the
Spirit to
spirit.
Galilee, and now he's immortal in a mortal flesh. His
Mhm.
immortality is
Absolutely.
overtaking the mortalness of him. And
Yeah.
then the reports went out about him throughout all the surrounding region, and he taught in their synagogues, bringing honor and held in great esteem by all.
Come on.
He's walking in the glory of
Come on.
Yah. He now has transcended from a flesh to light to glory.
Yeah. Yes.
He got new clothing on.
Come on now.
You,
Come
you,
on.
you you see what I'm saying? See,
Yes.
immortality. Now he's imperishable.
Yeah.
When we begin to walk in mortality, he brings us back. He reversed the age process.
Yes.
We stop aging, and he turns the shame of the cross into glory.
Yes.
Sis,
Come on now.
here's something that's interesting that what the religious complex system has done, and it brought condemnation to the cross or
Come
the
on.
stake. It say, this is where you got to stay. Bring it to the cross.
Bring it to the
Here's
cross.
all the shame. Always reminded me of my shame,
Yeah. Yeah. That
of my
wasn't the
guilt.
purpose. That wasn't
It
the
wasn't the
purpose.
purpose.
No.
No, it's there to take me to ascend into glory, to glory. I died, but I rose again. I was dead, but now I'm alive.
Come on.
I'm born again.
Yes.
I'm born into immortality,
Yes.
glory. But the death, burial, and the resurrection, and that's it.
Huh. Resurrected to
Always
what?
leave to what?
Resurrected to what? Come on.
See, we're supposed to be resurrected into glory, immortality.
Come on.
That's
Come on.
what we're supposed to be. That's what that journey is all about.
That's the galactic destination.
Absolutely.
That's the journey. Mm. Wow, wow, wow. You said so much. I got to go back up. I got to go back up. Blessings to all those that are on. I see Elder Vicky, Caleb is on. All of those that are in the room, even without announcement, we're thankful for you being here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on the YouTube channel, and to share on Facebook if you see the value in what we're sharing, and to definitely make comments in the comment section. But I want to go back up to something. So many things that you said here. I want to go back to the butterfly caterpillar concept. Because I typed these things and I was meaning to type them in my notes, but I got my other thing over there, so I should put it in a private chat, I guess. But it must consume before it cocoons. And it's so amazing, that journey to the ascended place. It's about consumption. So whatever you're cocooning for, whatever you're becoming, because you are becoming, regardless of whether you're even trying or not, you're becoming. But whatever you're becoming, you got to consume something before you cocoon. And so it consumes its way into this space. But what I love about it is that when it consumes, or when it cocoons, it begins its ascent before it even steps into the ascended place. It begins its ascent because you never see a cocoon at a low space. You never see a cocoon in a low space. Why? Because it's got to be protected, like you said, from the people, from the elements, from the animals, from predators. All of that has got to be protected. So it begins its ascent as a caterpillar. It doesn't know the journey, but innately, like you said, it's inside of it. Its path is inside of it. So it operates from this place of knowing without knowing. It's operating from a place of going without knowing. It's its makeup. It's how it's wired. You know, and it made me think about the steps of a good man are ordered by YAH. You know, we sitting trying to figure out every little thing, and he's saying, just step into it. I think I was sharing something with you earlier, really brief. I'm not going to tell the business, but there's some things I'm a little concerned about, right? In this season of my life, there's some things, and I'm like, and I'm just like, okay, I'm feeling this pushback. And so I'm like, okay, we'll just go forward, because understand, it was easy in the days of foolishness to forge forward. So these are the things that kind of, and understand, I do understand the clarity of when you've already been through things and you're seeing repeat patterns, or you're seeing those kind of things. Yeah, you should be aware. You should make note. But when you're not necessarily seeing repeat patterns, but it's a new thing that you've never done, you're going to have some opposition, internal opposition, that you're going to have to deal with. You're going to have to make decisions, not based on the internal opposition, but on what the Father has said to you, on what he's telling you. And you're going to have to begin to step out in faith, regardless of what you see, what you know. None of that matters at this point. What matters is that you step out. Now, I promise you, the steps of good men are ordered. So that means if you step out and where you're stepping is not sure, a foundation is not sure, and it's not the foundation that he's laid, he'll shift your feet. Now that sounds crazy to some people because they're like, well, no, I think, okay, I understand what you think. But if you're not stepping, then there's no order. He can't order non-step. He's ordering steps. So if in your heart you desire to be right before him, right? And you desire to please him, then your outcome has to be ordered steps because you got to start moving in something. You got to start moving in a direction of something. So I love this journey of the caterpillar because he's just innately doing what is his internal program, how he's wired.
Yes, yes.
And this is how
Wow.
we've been moving before we were transformed by the renewing of our minds. We were moving according to the wiring that we received in our familial connections, in the world systems, whether it was school, whatever it was, whatever doctrine we were operating by, that's how we were moving. Without question. Now, as the kingdom has come, now we're like, we got questions. Wait a minute. I got questions. You know what I'm saying? It cocoons high.
Why?
It begins as a scent. Why? It's never cocooning low. It goes high to transform. Meaning you can't deal with the transformation on a low level. And what you got to attain to is something higher than where you've been. So if you're trying to work out the details of the situation from a low level, you already lost. You've already lost. Because you're going to need to ascend to get to where you're going. You talked about the opposition that's against us. Oh, we're going to have opposition. And that opposition against us is for contending with what's in us. If there is no contending against what's in us, then we remain in that space. And when we reach that promised place, we're operating not on divine premises, but on diabolic premises. Because we're operating from the principles that we've been given, not from the transformed position. So that opposition is for contending. You know, David said it was good. I'm going to post up the last thing that I talked about, and I'll go to the next one. I was stuck for a minute. I still think it's kind of stuck or delayed, but we just going to move on. He said it was good that I was afflicted. Affliction is contending. He said it is good that I was contended with because it was the reformation of me. It was for my reformation that the contest came. This is why I tell people to read Job. You know, I used to tell people just read from Genesis to Revelation. Now I tell them start in YAH, start in Job. You know, start there because the industrial complex of religion will have you convinced that once you have a come to Jesus moment, then your life is going to be easy. Right? Once you get to that come to Jesus moment, then everything's going to be smooth. It's not. No, it's the beginning. That introduction is the beginning of your transformation. It's the beginning of your transformation from that caterpillar, that ugly thing, to the beautiful thing. Do you hear me? And what it reminds me of, it takes me back to the womb. And you guys have heard me have this conversation before. It takes me back to the womb because why does the father cover the baby? Why is the belly not translucent? Why is it not? Why you can't see what's going on in the womb of the thing while it's happening? Because it's ugly. It's beautiful, yet it's ugly. It's a beautiful, it's a divine process, but even divine processes don't always look beautiful in their inception. That thing is hideous.
Mm,
What if
mm,
the
mm.
baby was born the way it starts forming?
Oh my goodness.
You'd be like, that ain't right. That's an alien.
Right.
That baby is a gray. Okay. Y'all know they love to talk about the grays. That baby is a gray. Got a
Listen,
big
sis,
head and a little body.
sis, let me just interject this with a
Please,
because
go ahead.
I delivered my children. I
Okay.
did, and the first one, and said,
Wait.
so we got it the afterbirth because that's a glimpse on how ugly it is. That afterbirth, the
Oh my God.
placenta, it's ugly.
It's
I'm like,
ugly.
what? This
What?
right here? But look at the baby. Ooh, beautiful.
I
But
promise
this
you.
was yeah. That I just it made me think
What
about
came
that.
out of that?
Right. But anyway, yeah.
Listen. But even in that, even though the placenta is ugly, there's still so much vital life and nutritive factor in
Mm,
that thing.
mm.
This is why
Yes.
people selling placentas on the markets.
Mm, mm.
Why? Because even though it's ugly, it's got value.
Yes. Come on now. Whoa! Oh, okay. Okay.
Even
All
though it's
right.
ugly, it's got value.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
whatever the test is, whatever the trial is, it's ugly, but it's valuable. The Father
Mm.
declared, I'm gonna make it all work for you. Yeah, you was a slave to it, but I'm gonna make it a slave to you.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? So that opposition against us is contending with us for our reformation, for the transformation of who we're supposed to be. Now, I love this. You brought up his mind. Now, his mind was revealed. Check this out, brother.
Mm-hmm.
His mind was certainly revealed because I share this all the time. It's one of my favorite things to share. Because
Mm-hmm.
the world understands this whole devil and this whole conversational piece. So you got the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other shoulder in the
Right.
cartoon.
Right.
So I always communicated this way. There was no physical corporal being there with him.
Mm-mm.
However, you spoke this, the Holy Spirit led him into a place, right? He willingly
Mm-hmm.
went. But when he got
Mm-hmm.
there, he had to deal with his flesh. So when the Bible says he was tempted in all points, yet without sin, this is that place. He was tempted,
Mm-hmm.
but he was related to something that he remembered. So even if the Holy
Mm-hmm.
Spirit had left him there, he, based on his relationship previously, he had a
Mm-hmm.
relationship to something that was in him. It was something that the way that he was raised. It's the same thing with Moshe. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry. Yeah, same thing with Moshe. Now he went all the way to Pharaoh's house. He was in Pharaoh's house. He was
Mm-hmm.
raised by it. But there was something that his mother gave him, something that his mother gave him. I muted you just for a second, brother, because our line's beginning to do that thing. Something that his mother gave him in her nurturing and breastfeeding him. There was a prophetic thing that was transferred to him. So even though it looked like he was Egyptian because of what was raising him, there was something on the inside that at the appropriate time will come back to bear. At the appropriate time, it will come up again. So he's in this wilderness experience, right? He's been led there by the Holy Spirit. And like you said, he was like, oh, I don't believe that the Lord would do that to me. I don't believe that he would. Yeah, it's because you don't know him. You don't know him well because he puts us, he allows us, and I don't, when I say put us, I don't mean literally, this is not causative, this is an allowance. He allows us to process through what we need to process through to get where we're going because he understands the way that we take. He understands the family that we came out of. He understands the opposition that is against us. He understands the principalities and the powers that rule or have attempted to rule over the family. And if you're going to be the breaker of that rulership over your family, you're going to have to process through some things. So he's processing through some things for the sake of the family. He's taking one on the chin for the sake of the family. He gets out there and now he is being challenged in his flesh. Understand, this is after he realizes who he is. I had never thought about that until just in this moment. He has now realized who he is and that he has purpose. Remember, he was in the temple as a young boy. He's reading Isaiah chapter 60, and he closes the book. Up there I am. I see me. I see me in the scripture. I have a identity now. I'm understanding some things about me that I did not understand before. It's like the whole process of growing from childhood to adulthood, from childhood to maturity, right? It's some things that I sung when I was a child I didn't understand, but I sung them with great grace because I was anointed to do so. But now it's not just anointing, it's authority. Now it's not just anointing, it's glory because I understand now what I was singing then. So he's in this wilderness. And now he's being challenged in his flesh. And what does the adversary of his flesh want to do? The adversary of his flesh wants to change his posture so that he can change times and laws. He wants to change the posture of the Mashiach because if he can change the posture of the Mashiach, he'll change the mentality of the Mashiach, which means he's riding in on a stallion instead of a donkey. He's exalting himself instead of exalting his father. Listen, he would have definitely come in differently if in that wilderness experience he had not overcome and what was in him had not risen to the occasion. That's why we got to put something in these children. I need to take a station identification because what you guys don't understand, and many of you, some of you that have been listening to me or have been with me for some time, you'll remember my declaration to the body many years ago when devices became a thing. And I began to share with the people of YAH loudly, don't put those devices in these children's hands. I began to declare to them, don't do that. Don't put the devices in their hands without supervision, without parameters, without provision for parental parameters, without time restraints. I was talking all this stuff, and people were like, okay, great, yeah. And some people probably thought that's a lot. It's not even that serious. And then as I began to decree to people, and I even prophesied to some and told them who the children were that they were connected to and blah, blah, blah. And then I said to them all of these things about what the adversary was thinking to do regarding these devices. And then here come years later, people started telling me some of the things that I was telling them about what the enemy had thought to do concerning the devices. Now they're beginning to tell me I got to open the line anyway. Y'all let me know if what I'm hearing on my end is interfering with you hearing me, because I want my brother to weigh in on this. Now they're calling me and they're saying to me, my child is acting like they are leaning towards being a boy, or my boy is acting like a girl, or just they're acting real rebellious. Children that had a lot of joy were now very angry. Children that had a lot of joy were now that talked were now very non-conversational, more inclusive. You talked about the inclusion, more inclusive than expressive, and I'm saying, listen, I told you. I told you what the adversary was setting up to do, but this goes back to leadership. I hadn't been this route yet. However, I had been given a mandate and an instruction to declare something concerning what the adversary was setting up. And people, they heard me, or they listened, but they didn't hear. That's what it was. They listened, but they didn't hear. So then they had the outcome. But now it can all be a part of, it's all a part of the journey now. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with the whole um, scamdemic stuff. You know, once you've been through one scam, you know how to identify or decipher the next. We're hoping that that's what it is. But the only way you can really decipher things as you need to decipher them is because of the relationship that you have with the Father and your desire to ascend, not to stay in a low place, but to continually be transformed. And transformed by the renewing of your mind is a consistent process. I told you the kingdom is progressive. Everything about our king is about progression. He's consistently causing us to come into that next dimension, consistently pushing us, forging us, you know, through these fires into the next dimension of who we're supposed to be. But we got to be willing to ascend. I haven't even read the introduction yet, y'all. So y'all know what it is, okay? So the adversary of the soul, the mind, the will, and emotions of the Mashiach is dealing with him in the wilderness, and he's having conversations with himself. You know what the Bible talks to us about in Ephesians? He talks about bringing things into captivity. What this process that the Mashiach shows us is actually that. He's having thoughts, but he's bringing the thought into captivity. The thought appears, it comes to bear because of the pressure of the hunger, the pressure of the weight of becoming. But he brings that thing into captivity. He is sins, and I love this because that word of sins often discusses, especially when you're dealing with man, that that ability to go from earthbound to galactic. He ascends to heights. And in the heights, he's looking at the opportunities to function in a world system on another level, but he's been called from a galactic place to operate on behalf of his king. But there are other positions that are being made available to operate, and it's going to look differently than what it looks like when he actually does the appointment. See, he could have come in, like I said, on a stallion. He could have come in just reducing the authority and the power of all of those other religious systems. But he came in and he operated from a humble place, but it was authoritative. He didn't just have power. He had the authority, the authorization to utilize the power that he had, but he didn't need a stallion to do it. He came in on a donkey. Brother, say something about that. I'll come back.
You sure you want to stay there? You can stay there.
No, I could come back. I could come back. I need a book.
But it's just interesting that thinking about Moshe, because every time that he had a conversation with Yah, he had to ascend. He had to go to the mountain, and he said, "Come up to where I'm at. Come here, and I'm gonna come down
Yes.
to you. Come up,
Yes.
and I'm gonna come. Here's our meeting place. Our meeting place is right here. It's right here. So therefore, you have to ascend. There has to be, in order to have a conversation with me, there has to be everything about you have to change. Take your shoes off. The ground you stand. Take your sandals. The ground is holy. Nothing. You got to take your flesh has to come to connect with me to become one. That alignment. So as you and that ascension. That ascension. And so when I think about even Yeshua, here is this Mount of Transfiguration. Well, the disciples saw him and they were like, wow, but they went to a place. And everything is always a elevation. Went to a place and they saw the conversation. They was not in they were not in their flesh. They was able to see with the eye of faith. Of course, they thought maybe we can do this in the flesh, build these temples physical temples, but it was not for the physical temple to be rebuilt like this. But they saw this conversation with who? Moshe and Elijah that Yeshua had. So it's interesting when you ascend, there is a conversation as you ascend. The ability, the earthly ability, becomes from a mortal place to immortal. So now you're hearing differently. You're not hearing in the flesh. So that means there are the ability to hear telepathically, like I'm talking now. You can hear this in the mind. Oh my goodness. Now, because here I'm at a place that now I have ascended. Now, it is interesting because we look at Moshe, he ascended, came down. He ascended, came down. Oh, Jacob's ladder, ascended, going up, coming down. But Yeshua said, I will bring you to a place where you're going to ascend, you're going to stay there. You're going to stay there. Your ascension is going to be there. You don't have to come back to the ground again in the flesh, because you're going to overcome. You're going to overcome this. Your lifestyle is galactic. Now you're able to move. You're able to move in the atmosphere. Literally. See, people don't want, because when you begin to, and we get kibbles and bits of immortality, and we get excited. Whoa, this happened. Whoa, this happened. He said, wait a minute. This is supposed to be a lifestyle. This is a lifestyle.
Don't make no shrine here. You got to continue to move from faith to faith and glory to glory.
Absolutely. And so therefore you'll be able to defy laws of things that is set up to keep us. You'll be able to defy. You'll be able to fly. You'll be able to go through a wall. You'll be able to do these things. You'll be able to see. So now you'll be able to see in the universe all the angelic agents and things that's coming, that's here, coming in and out into the 3D realm and the earth realm. You'll be able to see all these things. You'll be able to communicate. You're warring just like Paul. We don't just wrestle with flesh and blood, but principalities. Oh, I'll be able to war now and move from, here we go, move from this place of galaxy to another in the realm in the realm of the spirit of the universe. But he prepares our body for galactic operation, if I put it that way.
Yes,
in
sir.
the journey. In that journey, he began to prepare our bodies, because in the flesh, we can't handle that. We can't handle the spiritual realm in the flesh. We can't. So that's why the enemy, the religious complex system, keeps us in the flesh to control us. That we will operate in the flesh, because the flesh can't even handle the things of the spirit. Spirit knows spirit. That's why we always like, I don't know. We talk about we got the Holy Spirit, but don't want to operate by the Spirit. Interesting.
Ooh.
Because you don't know who you are, or who you realize who you are is in the flesh. But every time some spirit or something spiritual come around, everything that spirit ain't the devil. I don't know that. I think that's some evil stuff going. But everything ain't evil that you can't see, and stuff that we see it in the scripture. We see it from the visible to the visible, and some stay in the visible and never reveal themselves in the physical. And it's just really interesting that he brings us to a place through Yeshua said, listen, this is your lifestyle. This is where, why? Because he's bringing us back to a place of glory. See, my covering now. See, they talk. Here we go. Watch this. They talk the blood cover. The blood cover now. The blood cover now. The blood ain't my covering. Oh, sis, are you with me? Do you hear me?
GP, are you
The
with
blood,
me? Oh yeah.
the blood is not my covering.
Come
No,
on
what's my
now.
covering? It's glory. I done went from the cross of the stake to ascended to glory.
That's
The
right.
glory, the light is my covering now. The glory is my covering. Oh my goodness.
That's it. That's it. From faith to faith,
Come on
glory to
now.
glory.
The glory has come. In other words, the light, the fire is my clothing. The fire of the Holy. See, when we walk in light, we walking in immortality. That's why people say, you so heavenly minded, you know earthly good. Yep, you're right. People say, how you doing? I say, I'm light, doing light work in the kingdom. I'm fire. I'm
Come on
fire.
now.
And listen, I'm fire. I'm a consuming fire. I don't see. So what I
Period.
have become, who He is, I have become. When we ascend, I become everything about who He is. I am the DNA, everything, the afterbirth. Listen. I didn't mean to scream like I did, but I hollered. Oh my goodness,
I love
that's
it. I love
value.
it.
Value. See, it is interesting that when you was talking about that the value, the identity, what's in the placenta is powerful. You got stem cells, and yet at the same time, the value of who you are. He said, "I'm gonna show you physically the value of who you are,
That's
who I
it.
am to you. That no one got the same fingerprint. Nobody." But who I am is in you. And internal compass is saying, where am I going? I'm looking for truth. I'm looking for who I really am. And it's interesting. He said, now, this is the kingdom has come. Here it is. It's here to stay. We have to become that as we ascend. It has to be a lifestyle. And people don't want to be galactic because they think, oh, it's spooky. This ain't right. Because everything in your mind has to be earthly carnal in order for you to accept it. I have to see it before I have to see it, then I can believe it. Operating a whole different realm of faith that is not of Yah by sight and not by faith. That's something. And so he gives us all of this to ascend, to not to descend, but to stay ascended. That's the victory we have over death, over sin and death. We don't have to ascend and come back into death. We can live in life
That's it.
abundantly,
That's it.
in the abundance. So he's bringing us to the place where people are going to begin to see fire around us, the glory around us, and won't touch us. Can't. If people can say, wait a minute,
The
because
world sees it all the time.
and what we see the opposite of immortality, we see rotten odor, fermentation,
Oh my God.
fermentation,
Fermentation. Yeah. Decay.
mildew, mold, sickness, death, body odors. You know,
Decay.
foul, and decay. All this, we won't experience. You don't experience that in mortality.
Absolutely not.
Mm.
The world sees it all the time. The world
Yes.
sees fire all the time. I can't tell you how many times I have been confronted by I muted you again, brother, for a hot second. You can unmute, mute yourself so you can interject when you're ready. I can't tell you the amount of times that people that were in other orders sidled up to me in various orders, just from various orders. The Masons, the this, the that. They sidled up to me in all kind of places, and they say, "I see your light." They trying to identify the origin because they're being allowed to see something. I see. It's the world that can't detect. I'm sorry. It's the ignorant that can't detect. See, they're not ignorant. They're aware of supernatural things. They're aware of spiritual things, but they don't have uh, supernatural divine intelligence to know what it is that they're seeing. So they see it, but they're trying to test it. They're trying to see, well, which side of this thing are you on? Because I see something on you. I smell something. You know what I'm saying? It's something about you. I see that light. I see an aura. I see this. I see that. And church people will be ignorant enough to walk up to you and say, "Do you know Jesus?" I'm so offended when people ask me that. I'd be like, "Do you?" Like somebody told me, "Oh, that should offend you like that." I'm offended because how you claiming to be about something that you don't even know about? You can't even identify nothing. You I don't look like family to you. Then we're not in the same family. Clearly, we're not in the same family because you can't identify nothing. You understand? It's crazy. I wrote a note because this is what happens. Because Peter thought the glory was in what man built in representation to Yah. But that was an old order. He even gave the dimensions for the tabernacle. He even gave dimensions uh, for the tent of meeting. He gave dimensions because it was a rehearsal of something that was coming, a rehearsal of him being in man as the tabernacle. But Peter's fascination, it was even reiterated on the Mount of Transfiguration. Oh, we could build a temple for all of y'all. And Father, I tell Peter, shut up, Peter. But he was thinking that this glory was in what man could do in representation, as a representation of who Yah was. Him and his flesh fascination with the tabernacles of men, not men being the tabernacle. He had to be transformed from that mindset. You remember when he was coming out, he and the master and another disciple were coming out of the temple, and Peter looks back, he said, "Master, look at that. Isn't it beautiful? Isn't it gorgeous?" It made me remember I don't remember how many years ago, but I know I've had this conversation several times over the last 10 years. And probably the last conversation that I had was during the false crown, the false corona, right? And I said to leadership, I said, "Y'all stop building church buildings. Y'all should stop doing that because that's not the age that we're in. That's not what Yah's looking for. He's looking for people to be the body, to be the ecclesia or the ecclesia, but to build places that would invite people into spaces where they could receive something from him." That means you have to take care of the needs of people, not have people take care of your need. I don't know. I said it several times, but it's like people didn't hear me. People were still trying to build church buildings, and people that I was connected to, they were still breaking ground and still doing all kind of stuff, even though it was spoken that this is not the way. But it's like Micaiah, the prophet. They hate that. Don't no religious people want to hear you tell them not to build no church building. They don't want to hear that. I told them make them community centers, feed the people, clothe the people. Make it a what was the Father saying to us? These would be um, storehouses. These would be places um, of service to the communities. And this is the way that you would bring them in, because you can go back to house if you need to, right? There's nothing wrong with coming together. That's not the issue here. You could even come together in the community center that you build to his glory to bring the people into to care for their needs, right? As well as the house to house. But Peter's fascination is the same fascination we're looking at every day. People just want to build a new church building. They got to build a bigger edifice than the last person, and we need to build even greater. It's enough buildings. It's enough buildings. Trust me, it's enough. It really is. Unless you've been given some dimensions for something very specific, it's going to fit what the prophetic word to us is in this hour, and it's not building churches. It's just not. This is the same fascination that Peter had, that the master told him to shut up, and the father told him to shut up. I mean, come on. Well, we'll read that and read over it like it's not a thing. Well, why are we so fascinated with edifices, physical edifices? Why are we so fascinated instead of becoming the edifice? You know, you said something, brother, and it tickled me, because I was pulled by what to have this discussion about tonight. And what came out of me at the first was, come up here. That was going to be tonight's conversation. And it still is, of sorts. I just entitled it that, but it's still that. It's still the ascending. It's still the coming up here. It's still the understanding that ascension is the place of transformation. It's a mindset that you have to leave from in order to go to even be able to begin a transformation. It's a decision. It's a decision. You can say something, brother. I'm gonna mute for a minute because I'm gonna pull up this intro because we ain't even read the intro yet.
Okay, but it's something because just coming to that place of to where Yah is bringing us to, and it's just something that is remarkable. That trans that ascending and becoming. It's just I'm just to be a part, to be aligned in this manner, uh, to see what AI is doing, the how what I want to say, just becoming, being, and seeing this happening. There's so many things, I'm full. I'm full right now. I'm like you was. I'm full. So when you get full, I'm ready to just sit. I'm full. Just to hear, to absorb more. Um, um, it's just wonderful. This whole everything, who we are to become and to operate into that. And so it's just this immortality, just becoming this lifestyle. It's just really is something. To be immortal, walk in immortality. Space travel, and gravitational control, and just being able to this immortality, divine healing, and the naturalness of immortality is not. It's not. It's not natural. It's just. It's different. You know. And yet misunderstood. You know. The immortality, the kingdom of Yah. You know. It's just really looking at all of this. And moving. From a place of flesh, as you were saying, to a place where one of my themes was back in the day, and people talk about apostles go build this, build that. And I came out, people looked at me like I said, I'm building, I'm not into building buildings, I'm building lives, you know, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, mine is building people.
Hmm. Hmm. And so and so there, there was some pushback. I said, well, y'all apostles, y'all can go ahead and build your buildings. You got to understand, he said, in my father's house, I'm in the mansion. What about the lives that are building? Are they the sanctuary? Are you been sent to them to build their lives, to be what God's called them to be? So it just is really something, and this is where I've been. Uh, God gave me that theme in the 90s, early like 92. It's, I'm building lives, not building. You know, so like you said, it was people looking at the edifices and how beautiful it was, and like you said, people are still there. Oh, they want this to be nice and want that to be nice. It's just and yet you bring them in, and yet folks are the spiritual temples are just corrupted in a beautiful edifice. You know, so it's really something. Hmm.
Oh my God, so true. The temple of man is corrupt while the temple that they build are beautiful. And it's sad because even beyond that, a lot of those places, I got to this place where I just hated the smell of a church. All these buildings, everybody got buildings, there's holes in the roof. It was so prophetically indicative of where Yah was concerning those matters to me. You know, can't imagine how many places I walked into and smelled that mildew smell from roofs leaking and things just not being repaired or fixed over time. Beautiful edifice, but it stinks. It smells. It reeks of irrepair. It reeks of the lack of repair. And to me, that's been the prophetic um, picture of how men's lives are without direction, without instruction, without teaching. We got a lot of, like you said this the other day, eloquence without grace, eloquence without anointing, eloquence without glory it's meaningless because it's not feeding anybody. It just brings glory to ourselves, but it doesn't bring glory to Yah. So the people are not fed and they don't grow. And if they're not growing, then they are decreasing and not increasing. Even if they have more stuff, they're still dying. So I'm gonna read a little bit of this opening before we get off of here, because I think that we're gonna have to continue in this um, on the third day. And which is our 246, which is the sixth day of the week. So not tomorrow, but the day after tomorrow. So that's how it's set up. Then y'all got the weekend, and then we come back to the second day, 246 again. Okay, y'all got it. Throughout the arc of biblical history, the covenant of Yah has consistently been revealed through the heavens. And so this is what galactic prayer is all about, really bringing us back to the reality that the Father has dealt with his creation from the conversation of the heavens and serving as a divine declaration to mankind all of this time. He's done that. From the reorganization of creation, and I say reorganization, or I call it recreation, his recreation often, because you have to understand that things are happening cyclically. And we'll get into that in just a moment. Whatever has been will be again. And so he is reorganizing, revamping, recreating something that he already created. So from the reorganization of creation in the Adamic Covenant, where the sun, moon, and stars were set in their courses, to the bow of promise in the Noahic Covenant and the celestial counting of stars in the Abrahamic Covenant, the heavens have always reaffirmed Yah's promises and communicated his promises to his people. This heavenly witness continued through the cloud by day and fire by night, guiding the 12 tribes and symbolizing divine presence and guidance, which they became the 12 uh, constellations. What is in heaven is in earth. From Yah to Revelation, We see a thread of angelic agencies, servants, and messengers sent to communicate Yah's will. Yet throughout history, diabolic forces have sought to twist and contaminate this divine communication. So when I talk about Yah for a minute or Yo for a minute, you say, well, where were these angelic agencies or servants and messengers sent to communicate Yah's will? Well, the adversary who came forward, Satan, you can't take it. There was an that was sent to communicate Yah's will, even offered the opportunity to try Yah as Yah's servant. Try him. See what happens, because he made a bold statement that if you take away all his stuff, he's going to curse you to your face. He said, go ahead, test him and see, because he understood the heart of Yah. Yet throughout history, diabolic forces have sought to twist and contaminate this divine communication, attempting to sever connection between Yah and his crown creation. Mankind is Yah's crown creation. Despite this, Yah has always preserved a remnant, a consistent voice carrying his truth to the nations in every generation, breaking deceptive codes and restoring the clarity of heavenly declarations. What is this deceptive codes about? Because here's the reality. The Maseroth, or what is deemed, or from the Greek perspective, the what's the word I'm looking for here? It's a word that's in my head and I can't get it out. The Maseroth, also known as the Zodiac, it's been twisted. So it's been so twisted that people haven't even given attention to it. But the Father has always spoken from the heavens. And when we think of from the heavens, we're always thinking of some voice coming out of the clouds. But Psalm 19 declares it that day and night, there's a conversation going on. From the heavens, there is a conversation from the constellations and from the luminaries. There's a conversation, even as it pertains to how the moon, with its gravitational pull, the pull of it, how it is a cycle that you plant on and a cycle that you harvest on. Why do you think that the times and the seasons of harvesting and planting are as they are? They are that way based on what the Father is speaking from the heavens. There is a time that you can plant a seed and get the maximum growth out of that seed, the maximum germination out of that seed, because you plant it on the right schedule. It's not magic, it's Maseroth. It's conversation. It's divine conversation. So these sons, the remnant, has always been in every generation to restore the conversation and to bring clarity, because there is deception surrounding these conversations. This remnant comprises those who embrace the mantle of sonship. Remember, the Father said, I don't do anything in the earth. And this is what we have to understand. There are no works that he's doing right now, because he's already done them. So now we're realizing the works. We are coming into the realization and the revelation of what he's already done. That's what's happening. It's a movie that my brother and I have been watching. It's something that I watched a long time ago, and he brought it back to my attention. And when we start talking about access to things, the portal is there. It's not something that's forming or something that the Father has to do. It's there, but it's only accessed by people that have sought out something to begin to identify beyond the seek, and now they're being called into something. I'm going to let you weigh in on that for a moment, brother. And then I'll keep reading the intro and we'll talk about it for a brief moment and let them go.
Well, I, I'm just, uh, I'm, I'm flowing with you. Oh my goodness. Oh, sister. Oh my goodness. I'm thinking, my thoughts was, here you're doing the intro here at the last, because now the last is now first. We see
Yeah,
the fulfillment of this intro that gave us the body, but the intro is last, but it actually is the beginning.
absolutely.
So that's what I was thinking about. I was caught up. I'm like, wow, this is good. This is good. without reading the intro first. But we got into the body, and now the ending is actually the first. So it's just really something. So that's what I was just engaging in as you were going forth with the intro and what have you, and so dealing with this and I thought about the farmer's almanac, almanac,
Yes, sir.
you know,
Yes, sir.
that conversation, as you were saying, because that is a great conversation. What is being said, and so I'm really interested in on the sixth day, which would be our third day in the conversation, in getting into those things, the conversation. Like you said, many conversations I had is speaking to us, you know, and it's just interesting because the sons of Issachar really is having fun. I'm just, I, oh my goodness, just conversation and with so many things that's being, you can look up and say, oh, okay, I got that. I can see that. I understand. And just coming to light of a lot of things. And, so you and I, we talked about telescope or microscope and all like this, that, that I have to come into fellowship with one of those again. When I was younger as a child, I was always interested in the things above. Why is it like that? How can people say things? How can people get what they're saying by just looking up, you know, but yet is there in the word, is there, and so there's this galactic conversation that is taking place, and to give us position and posture and what to say and how to deal with every galactic agent, biological, diabolical agents in the atmosphere, and how to deal with it. How to fight certain things, how to collaborate, and where to go in this season, and it's important. It is important. So it's really exciting, the anticipation, as the conversation continue in that matter, and just and but everybody's not there, but yet when we have the conversation, it just have to, just like the high priest would go behind the veil, they had to come back. There was a conversation that Yah had said, now you're gonna be quiet. You did all the things. You ministered to me. Now you're behind the veil. I'm getting ready to have a conversation with you. So now you're in a position that you can hear you can hear this conversation because there's an alignment. So, but when you get through with it, when I get through conversating with you, when I get through and you're spermatically impregnated. So now when you leave, you got to deliver this message to the people because everybody's not there. You got to go to the courtyard and begin to speak to
Absolutely.
the people of this conversation because you've been looking up. I've come down. You've come up, and so therefore now here we go. I'm going to share with you. I'm going to impregnate you, and you're going to deliver this because this what you're delivering is divine. This what you're delivering is immortal. It's so divine. But if you follow instructions, you're gonna reap it in the earth. You know, whatever that conversation is. But the one I've chosen, the one I've chosen, the ones I've chosen to come up. And this is where we are coming up today. But you got to understand, and to hear, because only those who begin to hear will be able to begin to move in such a way, following instructions, will be successful in everything that's taking place in the heavens above, and the earth, waters below, the earth beneath, and the waters below. and you'll be able to survive and live abundantly in the midst of everything that's taking place. Wow.
My God. You know what I was wanting you to weigh in on was, what we were the concept of what we were looking at too, because that uh, portal being there, but it's not visible. This is what you're talking about. It's not visible to everyone, but there are those that have been selected, and because of their election, because of their election, they have a ability that is beyond the normal um, way that man functions. They're tapping in a way that is beyond the normalcy of mere mankind. And so there are agencies, diabolic agents, that are looking to capture. And so this is where we are getting out. Everybody not going to be delivered. Some people going to stay witches and warlocks. Some people going to stay in the witchcraft that they operate in. Some people going to keep their books, but it's going to be a lot of people that's going to burn their books. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be delivered because they understand that their ability is not to be prostituted by diabolic nature. And once people realize they've been prostituted by darkness, and that the Father still has need of their gift because He's the giver of the gift, then they're going to have to transition. They're going to have to transition from the mind of darkness into the mind of light. And their gifts are going to be still utilized, but utilized for divine purposes and not utilized for flesh purposes. So in the movie that we were watching, they were looking for youth. They were looking for the children, which is a big deal to me. Because any nation that wants to bring a nation down must first start with their children. So the fact that there's such a weight and a perversion as it relates to the children is an indication of a nation preparing to come to a demise, come to its end. But in the nation coming to its end, there is a resurrection because of the election of sons. And so it's our responsibility as sons to arise and to shine, because that light, that illumination, that revelation has come, and the glory of YAH is rising and has risen upon us. And there are nations that must come to the light, and kings must come to the brightness of our rising. There's a transformation that's got to take place because of our identity and our authority that we are now realizing. I'm going to keep reading. This remnant comprises those who embrace the mantle of sonship, standing as Abraham did when he chose obedience over the familiar and the convenient. Oh my God. I say that there are two of the adversary's greatest weapons are convenience and comfortability. Convenience and comfort are two of the things that the adversary, not the Father, not Abba Yah, but two of the things that the adversary offers to people that gets them off track, because people want to be comfortable and they want things to be convenient. We live in that age, but everything comfortable and convenient is not covenant with Yah. Just as Abraham left his father Terah's idolatrous ways to pursue a promise unclaimed by his lineage. Listen, you got to understand this. The call came to his father, and you must understand that you are bearing the weight of things that the forefathers did not finish. Some of our family lineages started in a thing, they got perverted in the way, and they wound up in masonry and all kinds of stuff. And now you're being called to finish a work. You're being called to actually finish the journey, to begin to create this path for those that are behind you. Abraham did not, or Abram was where he started, left his father Terah's nativity. Terah died in Haran. He was on his way to Canaan. He was called to Canaan, which is the promised place that Abraham wound up in. He was called there. You say, how did Abraham wind up, or Abram wind up in Canaan? There was necessarily no map, but that's where his father was headed. Look, Terah's idolatrous ways died in Haran, unclaiming the promise that the father gave to his lineage. We too are called to sever ties with the familiar and to strive for the high calling, which was fulfilled in Mashiach, right? It's an appointment. In him, we are now seated in heavenly places. Now we are seated. When we talk about heavenly places, what are we talking about? I believe we'll get into this a little bit more in the next conversation, but there's a conversation that the father had with, hold on, I'm going to pull it up real quick. I believe, I'm pulling it up right now. It's in my head. It's in my head. I got to get it out. It's Zechariah. Zechariah chapter 3. Let me go here real quick, and then I'll finish reading that. Zechariah chapter 3. And you mentioned the garments. It's a conversation I'm consistently having throughout the years, is that the Father is seeking to change the garments of the sons. And this is happening here in Zechariah chapter 3. It's at the very beginning. I'm going to bring it up here in the KJV. I believe I'm going to go to start at verse 6. No, I'll start at the beginning. And it says, because this is a short chapter, chapter 3 of Zechariah, verse 1. Y'all got that? Zechariah 3:1. And he showed me Yahushua, the high priest, and you do know that Joshua, what y'all call Joshua, is Yahushua in Hebrew, and it's the same name as the Mashiach. Okay, so just so you know. And he showed me Yahushua, the high priest, standing before the angel of YAH, and Satan, or Hasatan, standing at his right hand to resist him. And we're talking about the resistance. And this was when he was allowed to still be in that realm walking, right? And there was a time when he was cast down. In other words, cast down from his position and cast down from that first nativity, that first location. And Yah said unto Hasatan, the Lord rebuke you. And the Lord said unto Hasatan, Yah rebuke thee, O Satan, even Yah that hath chosen Jerusalem rebuke thee. Is not this a brand plucked out of the fire? There was a challenge here. There was a resistance here regarding Yah's choice. Now Yahushua was clothed with filthy garments and stood before the angel. And he answered and spake unto those that stood before him, saying, take away the filthy garments from him. And unto him he said, behold, I have caused thine iniquity to pass from thee, and I will clothe thee with change of raiment. And I said, let them set a fair mitre upon his head. So they set a fair mitre upon his head and clothed him with garments. And the angel of Yah stood by. Listen at this. And the angel of the Lord protested unto Yeshua, saying, thus saith Yah of hosts, if thou wilt walk in my ways, this is where I want to get to, and if thou wilt keep my charge, then thou shalt also judge my house, and shalt also keep my courts. You got to understand the house and the courts. We'll get into it a little more depth on the third day. And I will give thee places to walk among these that stand by. Let me see if I want to keep going here, because there's another place that this conversation is had. I believe that it's had with one of the prophets. Give me a second. Because we're talking about the elevation. It's in Ezekiel. It's in Ezekiel, I believe. Let me see if I can pull it up. Ezekiel. Ezekiel chapter 28. Ezekiel chapter 28. Let's go there real quick. Brother, you could say something while I'm headed there. I'll mute so you can talk. I want to pull it up.
I was turning there with you.
Absolutely. Go ahead and turn. Or say something regarding something that I've already spoken or something that's in your spirit concerning where we're going.
Just interesting because we, like we said, the movie that we saw, and dealing with how they deal with the youth and the children, and it's interesting how even when I watched it and dealing with adult children who are coming in and how they are doing. Because the disciples asked you, Yeshua says, who's the greatest in the kingdom? And he says, well, unless you come in as a child, you got to come in your whole mindset. You can't come in with the mindset you have. And yet at the same time, we see the world. Who are they? Who are they pinpointing? Who are they dealing with? They're dealing with the youth. Let's get the youth. Let's get the youth. Let's get them. Let's entrap them. And so we want their mind. And so right now they going after the young mind. It's not like it used to be years ago. In the corporate industrial world, with the adult mind, and so now they going with the imagination of anything. So when you got children, youth, you got imagination, and a lot of things that you see in that's produced is the imagination of young people, youth, you know, and they're doing this. And so when you look at what's taking place in the kingdom of the world, when it comes down to people, God said, listen, I want you as you as a youth, you're coming in. I could use your mind and use you, strengthen you to go forth in the kingdom, even though you might be 40, but you got your mind is pliable. Your mind is easy to absorb, to connect with who I am. You can't come to me in your flesh and try to tell me what to do, but you got to come to me as a child. When you look at children, especially toddlers and what have you, it's just interesting because a lot of them operate in blind faith. When I was raising my son, and he would be on the top of the stairs, I said, "Jump!" He jumped without thought, just laughing. There's things that he did.
Oh my
He
God,
got older.
yes.
He got older. I'm thinking I got to think twice. But now Yah says to us, "Listen, jump." What? You got to have that mind that you trust your father. You trust the one that you said jump. That they got you. And so, but we as adults, we don't have that blind trust and faith in Yah and what. But now we look at the world, what they're doing. It's trust us. We got you. We got you. And you got teenagers, young people making billions of dollars because they've taken their mind. They're taking their mind, and they don't know what to do with all that. But what the system is doing is raping and perverting everything and taking it away from the youth, and so you have parents who are whose minds are childish and worldly, and allow these things to be, and they sacrificing their children in the fire and through the fire. And we see this with the diabolical agents of what Hasatan is doing and what have you. And we see grown adults falling by the wayside. So when I saw the movie and saw these things, these portals, it's here. These things are happening for real. The diabolical agents of in the atmosphere coming to the visible, coming to the visible. There have to be a birthing. There have to be resurrection. because because we dealing with so much, and so it's interesting because even in the movies that we saw, each one, and the youth, the young, it is interesting. The shining. It says, oh
Yeah.
no, no, don't use your gift. Don't use your gift now because they can locate you. Your discernment. They can locate you, but it's a time and a place to be born. And right now, don't just calm down, because your youthfulness, all this, gonna get you in trouble. Because once you start exercising, then the light comes and then they can find you. But yet, how they find you,
Yes.
because there's some things inside of you. Because here's kibbles and bits. Now there's some things inside that you're dealing with, because we want some things to take. We want to hide you first, then come forward. But sometimes, because there's anger and all these things that's there, I want revenge. I want to get back at you and what have you. Now, because there's a stench, I can locate you. I can locate you, and then I can begin to work on some things to get you where I want you to be. However, the journey, the journey that Yah has us on, he said, listen, I know where I want you to be. I know where I want you to be. But there's some things that's going to take place. But when you come to the shining, your gift now is a weapon. Not
Boom.
not to not to exploit it, but now it's a weapon that will take place, that will help the world, help mankind, help folks come into the, like you said, there's some that's going to stay exactly where they are and be consumed. There are many that's going to begin to burn their books. No more control. No longer free in the cage, but I'm free from the cage. I'm free.
Yes, sir. Yes,
when you're free from the cage, you're galactic. There's no place that I can't go. You know what? Just like the Star Trek. Well, tracking, yeah, the Star
where no
Trek.
man
You
has
know,
gone before me.
listen. no, no, you're not gonna hold me down. But anyway, hmm
I love it. I love it. Okay, Ezekiel chapter 28. I absolutely love it. And we'll delve into this a little bit more too. Um, but he says, Son of man, I'm going to start, I believe, at verse 11. Moreover, the word of Yah came unto me, saying, Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyrus. Now, who are we talking to? The king of Tyrus. And say unto him, Thus saith Yah, thou sealest up the sum full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. And people use this chapter and they use these verses to speak of Hasatan. This you'll find here where it discusses that this is the king of Tyrus. So this is one that has taken on the expression of, if it were, okay, the expression of Hasatan. But this is definitely speaking. It's a lamentation, a word of Yah that came unto the prophet Ezekiel, saying to the king of Tyrus, Thus saith Yah, thou sealest up the sum full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. In other words, I've given you some things, right? You have it. You got the stuff, right? Thou hast been and eaten the garden of Yah. Every precious stone was thy covering. The sardis, topaz, the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, and the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes was prepared in thee in the day that thou was created. This is, man, I pray that he allows me to really go into this on the third day, because these are the things that we are given, and we take these things and we begin to operate from these doctrines of men. It is not a fascinating thing for kings to be covered in jewels, is it? Is that fascinating? He said, Thou hast been in the garden of Yah. And I think this is where people kind of go left. In other words, you derive some things. You've been in It was as if you were placed in that garden. You had access to all of these things, right? It says here, thou art the anointed cherub that covereth. Now we understand cherubs and we understand anointing, right? And this is a position of a kingship, that they would be one that covers the people, that their rulership would be. You remember the cherubs that dealt with the garden, right? They had a flaming sword. Their authority blocked Adam from getting back in. The authority of a king blocks anything from getting into its kingdom. And I've said thee so. He said, I did this for you. This is not something that I allowed this. This is not something that you did on your own. I was telling somebody the other day that the term self-made millionaire is such a arrogant and such a stupid phrase, because there's no way to be self-made, because you're going to always need people, whether they were people on your team and or people that bought your product or bought your service. You could never be self-made anything, because you're going to need people, because it's just the way the Father instituted things. He said, thou was upon the holy mountain of Yah. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Thou was perfect in thy ways. There was a position that he had been given because of his kingship that allowed him access to some things. It allowed him some access. When it talks about the mountain of Yah, and it begins to talk about walking up and down in the midst of the stones of fire, there's some things that have been established in the heavens regarding what happens on the earth. He's saying, you have walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire, and you were perfect in thy ways from the day that thou was created until iniquity was found in thee. This details the difference between us recognizing the authority and giving glory back to Yah, and recognizing our power and being consumed by it, recognizing the position and allowing power to consume us, right? There's another verse that I wanted to pull up for you guys too, that talks, well, is similar to the one that I pulled up here in Zechariah, but there's a position that's offered, you know, there's a position that's offered, and the Father's desire is for us to ascend into that heavenly place. But many, as Paul said, are simply just mere men. And what makes us mere men is the fact that we don't understand what to do with our identity. Part of it is we don't have an identity. We haven't yet identified ourselves with our Creator. And then the other part of that is, if we have some glimpse of identity, it may be that we have not yet identified how to operate in that identity to the glory of Yah. So I'm going to keep reading this. Therefore, Yah's declaration through the Mashiach on earth as it is in heaven. I think I read this part. Yeah, the idolatrous part about Abraham's father, Terah. Okay, yeah. Therefore, Yah's declaration through the Mashiach on earth as it is in heaven stands as a mandate for his people to bring forth his divine order. This is the divine order, and this is what sons have to get back to. The Bible talks about not removing the ancient landmarks. What do you think the ancient landmarks are? I have a whole bunch of notes that I'm not even going to get into today. What do you think those landmarks are? There is a way that things are done. There's an establishment that the Father has already put in place that allow us to identify and to hear what he's saying in every season. It says here, what is already written and established in the heavens must be executed on earth or in earth, as the sons of Yah carry the responsibility of making manifest the promises and purposes of the kingdom. In this clarion call to the manifesting sons of Yah, we are charged to reestablish his divine order, not merely through our words, but through the essence or the divine expression of who we are, through who he is in us, who we are. A remnant who embodies the prayerful declaration of heaven's reality, becoming earthly truth. Let it be done as it is already written. We don't have to create no new way to do nothing. Heaven has already been given the conversation. And so as we are identifying who we are, because we've identified who he is, he gives us all of the different ways of his communication, the heavens being one of them. The heavens declare the glory of Yah. Day by day, there's a conversation, and night by night. Well, day by day, there's knowledge, and night by night, a conversation. There are things that we as the sons of Yah must attain to in this season. We've got to get back to the ancient landmarks because darkness has taken this thing way too far. And now the Father is saying, no, I've got to rush my sons into this place to begin to cast down. It keeps taking me back to the vision that I had of stepping into that diabolic portal where they were delivering babies and the diabolic midwife was on the chair receiving the babies and cleaning them up. And he thrust me into the portal and he had me sit in every seat. I was divided amongst the seats. And I'm catching these diabolic babies, but I'm casting them to the ground. This is a place that the Father is calling us to in this hour. And it's an amazing place. It's a divine place, but it's also a place where you have to just trust because there's so many uncertainties and so many. The one thing that's certain is change. And the other thing that's certain is the Father's consistency, right? So you have to trust the God that you serve in these spaces because you don't know all of the directions to where you're going. You just know that there's a destination. And when you get to that destination, there is another destination. It's a faith to faith. It's a glory to glory. It's a progressive work because our King is a progressive King. And he's taking territory. That's what this is all about. So you hear the prophetic word that I gave about the maps. You know, this is a thing. The Father's saying, now I'm getting ready to move my sons into position. I'm moving my children into the position of authority. Why? Because they're concerned about what's in the White House and they're concerned about all of these things. He's saying, and the real politics that are, there's nothing real in politics. Let's say that. There's nothing real in politics, but the real government, the authentic government, is the government of Yah. And that's the focus of sons. That should be the focus of sons. The government of Yah. What Yah is desiring to do, what the government is being set up to execute in this hour. Brothers, say something. We're going to let them go. You know they love it when you laugh.
Oh, sis, just I'm, I'm right now. It is. I'm so full, and I just I just don't have nothing right more to say right now, but just wait for the third day, just to where y'all's going. It is something. Just I it I I'm, I'm, I don't have nothing to say. You know, I'm full and I'm good. I could say something, but I just you get to a place you're so full and just I'm I'm relaxing in Him. I am. I'm. It's just wonderful. I'm at a place in this moment. Just such a peace. You know, of everything. That's been said, that's been revealed, and it's just a wonderful place. And you say, well, say something. Well, this is it. This is what I'm saying. you know. And so when there's nothing to say for me, I just I just leave it as it is. You know, and that's something that y'all told me when I don't give you nothing else to say, don't say nothing, but just hear. And this is where I'm at. And so I'm excited. I am, sis. I'm excited um, for the things that are happening. We are in the kingdom. I'm excited. And so, but yeah, that's where I'm at right
Absolutely. I thank y'all for you. Listen, we're going to turn y'all loose. I've got more notes than I have time today. And we're going to come back on the 6th day. Y'all know how we're doing 246. That's where we are, which adds up to 12, actually. We talked about that the other day, brother. I think that's fascinating. And I tell you, I don't come up with this stuff off the top of my head. I promise you I don't.
Mhm. I'm looking forward to the 12.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're gonna turn you loose tonight. My prayer for you is this: that you would actually come into the reality of what Yah is doing um, concerning His government. That you would no longer focus on external governments. It's a thing that Israel always took with them, no matter where they went, even when they were in captivity. See, their captivity always caused them to remember something, even when they forgot and wound up in that space. But they always remembered something. There was always a remnant that understood that I don't care what government you have going on here, we already are operating from a government. We already have a king. We don't need another one. We're not disrespecting what you got going on. That's your business. But as for us, this is what we do. And so this is the place. It's just fascinating to me how many people have been so um, messed up over the election and so messed up over so many things that are happening in the earth. And they're just not realizing that the Father is not interested in that. He's more interested in His government and His sons taking their rightful position to execute His authority in the earth. And so, my prayer for you is that you would begin to say yes in this hour. You might not know all that He wants to do, you might not know all the directions He wants to take you, but that you say yes in this hour and that you begin to do the things that allow Him to process you, you know, that you begin to allow yourself to be processed for the purpose and for the promise of Yah concerning the earth. And that's going to affect your family. That's going to affect the lineage. That's going to affect generations and nations when we just get in our rightful position and allow Yah to do what He desires to do. It's a galactic morning, y'all. I pray that you are blessed. And I want you to remember that the body is not a me thing, it's a we thing. Listen, we love you. And we will see you on the 6th day. We bid you shalom, shalom.